Have you ever imagined lying in a bathtub full of cash, money raining down on you, casually tossing stacks of bills? We're not here to talk about making a fortune today. We're here to explain inflation, what it is, why it happens, and for ordinary people, what should we really worry about? How can we respond? Let's start with the simplest version of the idea. Currency is just money. Inflation means that money is getting thinner, shrinking in value. The same cup of coffee that cost 10 years ago might cost 35 today. It looks like coffee got more expensive, but the essence is this. The money in your hand is quietly losing purchasing power year after year. In economics, we often use CPI, the Consumer Price Index, to roughly measure how the prices of a basket of everyday goods change over time. Take the US as an example. 60 years ago, its CPI was roughly 1/10 of today's level. In other words, $1 back then had roughly the same purchasing power as $10 today. So inflation isn't just an abstract economic term. It's something you feel every time you buy groceries, pay rent, or order takeout. A very real question of how far your money can still go. If we boil inflation down to one sentence, it's this: the supply of money grows faster than the supply of real things to buy. In any economy, the amount of real goods and services is limited. It depends on how many people are working, how many factories are running, and how much they can actually produce. But if the money in circulation suddenly increases, everyone has more to spend and is more willing to spend. You end up with too many banknotes chasing the same amount of goods. The result is prices get pushed up. The purchasing power of money gets diluted. Your account balance looks nicer, but you can actually buy less. So the essence of inflation isn't just that things cost more. It's that value is quietly shifting away from people who let cash sit still and toward those who produce, invest, and take risks. Hearing this, you might wonder, why not just stop prices from rising, or even make things cheaper over time? Here's the problem. If everyone expects prices to be lower next year, who wants to spend today? And who wants to invest today? If your 100 can buy more next year than it can today, the most rational choice is simple. Do nothing. Just hold on to the cash. Over time, this leads to a scary picture. Businesses hesitate to expand, consumers stop spending, and everyone waits for a cheaper tomorrow. The entire economy slows to a standstill. The decades after Japan's bubble burst are a typical example. There was plenty of money and very low interest rates, but people simply didn't want to spend or invest. That's why most central banks prefer to tolerate around 2% annual inflation rather than risk long-term deflation. A little bit of getting more expensive is safer than a world where no one dares to spend it all. So here's the question. In practice, how does inflation actually show up? Simply put, there are three main types. First, demand pull inflation. Imagine a city where business is running at a normal level. Then one day, everyone suddenly becomes obsessed with a new pineapple phone. Demand shoots up. The factory either works overtime to produce more, or just raises prices first and asks questions later. With higher profits, the boss raises wages and hands out bonuses. Employees then go out and spend more. Before long, the whole economy enters a kind of positive feedback loop. Demand, output, and income all rise together, and so do prices. Second, cost push inflation. Sometimes demand isn't that extreme, but companies find it very hard to produce more. Workers are hard to hire. Raw materials keep getting more expensive, and capacity is nearly maxed out. At that point, even if they just want to maintain profits, they can only pass the pressure on by raising prices. The result is simple. You don't get much more product, but prices still go up. The third and most dangerous type is extreme money printing in times of stress. During war, political collapse, or fiscal breakdown, governments easily end up doing this. Print the money now, deal with everything else later. In the short term, it looks like everyone has more money, but the supply side can't catch up at all, so prices start to spiral out of control. Step by step, moving toward what we described at the beginning, hyperinflation, where cash isn't even worth the effort to burn. When it comes to printing money, there's another easy misunderstanding. Many people draw a straight line from inflation to central banks print money. In reality, it's not that simple. Over the past decade, Japan, Europe, and the United States all carried out large-scale quantitative easing. Central bank balance sheets expanded dramatically, but for a long stretch, actual consumer price inflation stayed stubbornly low. One reason is that a lot of that money just kept circulating within the financial system. Central banks injected liquidity into banks and financial financial institutions, which then bought bonds and stocks. Asset prices rose, but the money didn't flow into everyday household and business spending in a meaningful way. It wasn't until the pandemic year when governments started sending money directly to households through checks, subsidies, and loan relief that this money really started to burn on the consumption side. Demand was lit up, supply chains couldn't keep pace, and that's when high inflation suddenly showed up. So you can think of inflation as the combined result of money printing, demand, supply, and expectations, not just one single print money button being pressed. From a policymaker's perspective, central banks and governments aren't actually afraid of having inflation. What they fear is inflation getting out of control. As long as inflation stays within a manageable range, it can even be seen as a gentle pressure that keeps the economy moving forward. But once inflation crosses the line and expectations break loose, everything starts to change. People rush to spend as fast as they can. Saving, investing, and long-term planning stop making sense. Production incentives weaken. Financial systems come under stress. And in the end, what's really lost is trust and social order. That's why you often see this. Central banks would rather hit the brakes and accept slower growth than allow inflation to stay above their target range. Because once that line is completely crossed, the cost is often not just a year or two of volatility, but the scars of an entire generation. For ordinary people like us, what really matters isn't guessing whether next year's inflation will be 2.3 or 3.1, but understanding one simple thing. In an inflationary world, cash that just sits there will slowly be shaved down, while those who build skills, improve efficiency, and take part in production and investing are gradually rewarded by the system. Understanding this matters far more than memorizing any technical indicator. This is inflation, and this is what it actually looks like in everyday life.